Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and build a fascinating blueprint of exactly how human beings process reality over time. If you've ever wondered why it's so incredibly difficult to put your present, lived experience into words, or why certain profound realizations just seem to slip away the very second you try to write them down, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're going to explore a really radical framework from a working paper on vector field theory. We're going to construct a geometric map, literally a matrix, that plots exactly how information, meaning, and definition interact with the arrow of time. Trust me, it is going to completely change how you view your own consciousness. So to solve this mystery, we have to look beneath the visible tip of the iceberg of our everyday words and definitions and really understand the strict, unyielding sequence of how information actually flows into our minds. We kind of just assume we look at the world and instantly create a definition for it, right? But the source material we're exploring today argues that this is fundamentally backwards. There's a rigid sequence, like an assembly line of reality, and to understand it, we have to start at the very bottom, the absolute foundation of the iceberg.
Our first building block is qualia. Now, in philosophy, qualia is often treated as some magical, mysterious ghost in the machine. The unexplainable redness of red or the pain of pain. But what's really interesting about this framework is how it strips away all that magic. Qualia isn't an illusion, and it definitely isn't a ghost. It's simply raw, physical information arriving and being rendered from the inside of a processing node, which in this case is you. It's the operating signature of your sensory constraints. It is the massive, raw, totally impressionable foundation that seeds absolutely everything else we do downstream. Information comes first, and this raw, felt experience is strictly following it. Moving one step up from that foundation, we have meaning. Now, here is the crucial point. Meaning is detected from qualia, not artificially constructed by us. Guys, this is a massive paradigm shift. We usually think we impose meaning onto a chaotic world. But the framework argues that meaning is actually a sensing channel. Just like your eyes naturally pick up light, your meaning channel picks up significance patterns that are already embedded in that raw information. The meaning was already there. Your node simply detected it. You didn't artificially add a thing. And finally, at the very top, that visible tip of the iceberg, we get definition. A definition is literally just a boundary drawn around that detected meaning to make it communicable. It is a lossy compression. Think about trying to describe an absolutely incredible sunset to a friend. The words you use, your definition, well, they transmit just a partial coordinate set. You leave out the temperature of the air, the exact gradient of the colors, that specific feeling in your chest. You literally have to compress the rich, massive volume of the qualia into a tiny, structured boundary just to hand it to someone else. Section 1. Building the blueprint. Past, present, and future. Now, what actually happens when we map those three states of information against the arrow of time? Because, these aren't just static categories. Let's look at our initial 3x3 matrix. Notice how information transforms entirely depending on what cell it occupies. For example, look at past definition. Without the live context of the actual experience, it just becomes structured nonsense, a statement floating in the void. Or look at future qualia. It's essentially meaningless because your constraint architecture hasn't encountered it yet to receive and render it. Every single combination of time and information state has its own specific, unbendable rules. Let's trace the natural diagonal path right through this grid because human experience perfectly steps from past qualia into present meaning and finally into future definition. This right here is the healthy, functioning flow of consciousness. Your past raw experiences, the qualia, seed the meaning you're able to detect in the present moment. And then that present meaning is what allows you to eventually form a stable definition that you can confidently carry forward into the future as in any temporal container. You take a step, you interpret the step, and then you name the step. It flows perfectly. Section 2. The law of perishing. The Manna Rule. But what happens if we get impatient? What if we try to jump straight from the raw feeling of the present moment directly into a permanent definition? Well, the framework outlines a strict consequence here, and it's actually rooted in a really old story. Take the ancient account of manna in the desert from the book of Exodus. The people were given sustenance that arrived daily, but they were given a strict warning: gather only what you need for today. If you try to hoard it, if you try to store it up for the future, it will rot and breed worms. The paper argues this isn't just an ancient economic flow law, it's a literal mapping of how qualia functions in our minds. Just like that manna, present qualia can only be consumed in the present to create one single step of meaning. Any attempt to hoard the raw, live feeling of the present moment directly into a permanent definitional possession completely destroys it. The surplus rots. The impression is totally lost.
So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that you simply cannot formalize what you haven't yet interpreted. Present qualia can only become meaning. Definition strictly requires a prior layer of meaning to exist first. Honestly, this is exactly why eyewitness testimony degrades so badly under pressure. It's why the present moment feels so powerfully ineffable and indescribable. The qualia is live, it's making a massive impression on you, but the definitional structure simply isn't available yet. By the time you can define it, the raw qualia is already in the past. You just have to let the present be the present. Section 3. The fourth axis. Expanding to totality.
Up until now, we've really just been mapping the territory. But who's actually reading the map? To navigate this, we need a fourth axis, an emergent observer vertex called totality. This is the profound capacity to hold all these temporal positions at once. It's when you step out of just blindly experiencing that diagonal flow and you achieve a retrospective synthesis of the past, a grasp of the live present, and a projection of the future. It is literally the system finally observing itself. And boom, here is a complete 4x4 matrix framing the entire geometry of human consciousness. Notice how the new totality column synthesizes the past and projects the future across the different states of information, while the totality row observes the system in each active epoch. It holds the whole thing together. But look really closely at that bottom right corner, totality/totality. That is the only cell in this entire matrix that can observe the whole cycle rather than just living blindly inside a single moment of it. It's the exact point where you realize that you aren't just the information and you aren't just the definitions. You are the emergent observer navigating across all of it. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this absolutely incredible realization. The ultimate terminal state of information isn't just the 3x3 grid itself. It's not just gathering the qualia, finding the meaning, and making the definition. No, it is the exact geometric point where you, the fully emerged observer, are finally looking back at the map. You are the universe's information field, folded up into a specific constrained architecture, finally looking at itself. So if your entire reality is built on this strict temporal sequence, what else about your daily experience is just an illusion of timing? Think about that. Until next time, keep exploring.